2021 was probably one of my favorite years into gaming. Not only was there so many brand new titles that I was extremely hyped for, it was nice to go back into a couple of classics and, see what a couple of things were, or maybe even revisit a couple with brand new eyes and brand new glasses. While I will admit it wasn't the best year, just because of a lot of personal reasons, COVID, a lot of family reasons as well. It was nice to kind of dive in, kind of escape a little bit and play a little bit of games on my time, even away from the channel as well. So I want to give you my experiences into what games I played in 2021, and maybe I'll turn a blind eye into something that you'll be really enjoying. And of course, why not start with the humble Super Nintendo? You probably know everything there is about the Super Nintendo. It is a 2D platforming juggernaut, it is an RPG mastermind, it is amazing with puzzles and little niche games in between, but none game that is niche is Super Metroid. Why did I want to go back into this game? I saw how Metroid Dread was when it was coming out for the Nintendo Direct, and as soon as I saw that, I had to say, you know what, let's marathon this series. Let's go back, see this game with fresh eyes in comparison with, Metroid Dread, and, see what's going to be going on with this game. And honestly, Super Metroid really does hold up for maybe a couple bit of caveats, which I do want to go into. Of course, if you guys have played this is a 2D platforming genius that allows you to traverse Brinstar as Samus Aran, trying to save the Metroid from Mother Brain and the Space Pirates, so probably the whole shebang that you probably know and love, but it's just really great to go back into it again. First things first, when you go into Super Metroid, the atmosphere is unbelievable. Not many games really do know how to set you for an amazing experience, and as soon as you control Samus, you see the space station, it really sets you up for an amazing experience from beginning, middle, and end. Pacing from the game is still probably one of the best in terms of gaming. It knows what it presents to you, and it does so in spades. And I still can't get over how beautiful the vegetation is when you're traversing through Brinstar. Just looking at how the vegetation kind of, sways with the atmosphere or sways in the background, or just seeing how some background characters interact. And what's nice is that you will see this in Metroid Dread, so they took this idea and really went with it when Dread, but I'm digressing. It still has an amazing experience when you're trying to defeat bosses. It still has a rugged difficulty that it's not too hard, but it's still not too easy, which is a nice amount of challenge that I think any individual will enjoy. My only complaint now is actually the floatiness of how Samus controls. Jumping from either her space jump or any other jump, you really do notice how floaty she is in comparison to Fusion or Zero Mission, but I think that's okay because this game was a huge step up from Metroid 2 and 1, and just seeing the way the game plays and controls, I absolutely understand it, and I'm very grateful for Nintendo to do an amazing evolution from the series. We'll talk about more Metroid later, trust me about that. And even though Metroid did present a couple of horror elements, with atmosphere and everything, a game I really needed to immerse myself again was Clock Tower. It's one of my personal favorite horror games, and delving back into the Granite Orphanage, or the Clock Tower, I said the name by the way. The game just does a great job making you feel like a completely helpless individual trying to make you run away from an individual who's going to slash you no matter what you do. The music also does an amazing job at really feeling that tension of being chased and hopefully not being killed. And what's nice is that he will find you in his way when you're trying to find hiding spaces. And I really love that he took his time to really check different beds, check different areas that you weren't really thinking that he would. But either way, I thought it was a very cool experience to go back again. I tried to go back for one of the other endings, I think it was for the A ending, but it was just a great experience to go back, really figure out what's going on in the orphanage and the clock tower, and why does Miss Mary want to kill everyone? Spoiler alert, but what? It's a game from 20 years old. Clock Tower hasn't disappointed at all, and going back to it was a really nice experience. Ah, the Sega Saturn. If you told me a couple years ago, I would have said I'm not a big Sega fan at all, but you know, over the years, things change. I think one of the other changes for me, was Christmas nights. I've always seen people, whether it was on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, saying, I want to play Christmas night on Christmas Eve. So I did the thing, and I played Christmas nights on Christmas Eve. And it's a really fun experience, and I really want to tell you why. I never thought it was. First of all, you put it in the disc. You see the timer on the left, you know, really counting you down for Christmas Eve. This is basically a demo, more or less, of what the original Nights was supposed to be. And it's more of a reskin too, because a lot of the levels that are introduced here are Christmas themed, which I love. You know, there's a lot of greens, a lot of reds. You know, even Nights has a new different costume reminiscent of Santa Claus. But I will admit, this is one of my first experiences into Nights into Dreams, and I will admit, the first levels are pretty incredible when you're trying to traverse through the levels. It did take me a bit to figure out that you have to keep on circling the track and trying to collect orbs in order to defeat certain enemies and be able to get bigger orbs. Okay, look, I'm not describing this game, but I think the floaty nature of the game really promotes a really ethereal experience, and the Christmas music in the background is just such a wonderful touch. It really gets you into the holiday spirit and gets you really excited. You'll probably hate me for saying this, but I cannot figure out the boss battle for the life of me. I don't know how you have to defeat him. From what I was looking at a guide, you have to do paralooping, which is basically trying to loop around, you know, the enemy's star and trying to damage him with that, which is a very stupid concept, because trying to make sure that you paraloop in proximity to him is just, it's a stupid and cumbersome experience. I'm sorry, I don't like it. It genuinely sucks. Other than figuring out how to get that paralooping going. It's really nice after you do finish a level, you are able to get gallery art as well as renders of the different characters, or even see some of the art of the games. I really loved what the game was really introducing. Christmas Nights really does stand as a wonderful experience to play on Christmas Eve, but that's it. But I do love puzzle experiences, and Puyo Puyo-san is one of those games that really, you know, invigorated that love for puzzle games. It's classic Puyo Puyo as it comes on the Sega Saturn. Of course, this was ported over to PS1 and I think the 64. I really love the way 2D sprites look on the Sega Saturn, and you know, it looks even better on here with the RetroTink 5X, and it just looks amazing. It's just as Puyo Puyo as it comes. I don't think this game really sets it apart from other games other than a, you know, slightly robust story in comparison to other Puyo Puyo games. But if I told you that you were in for a story for a puzzle game, I don't think many people would stay in general. Overall, it's a cute experience. It's Puyo Puyo in a beautiful classic 2D console, and it's something that I love very, very much.
大丈夫？しっかりして。あ、お水が欲しいのね。はい、どうぞ。ラララ。へえ、俺に歌を歌ってくれるの？あらほれいれはえ。あらほれいれはえ。ひどいようち。ドゥドゥドゥ。ドゥドゥ。
And speaking of Christmas on the PlayStation 1, what game would work better than Police Knots? And what's funny, because it does take place in Christmas, taking you in the helm of Jonathan Ingram, trying to figure out what's going on with his ex-wife's death, why he's trying to figure that out, and then eventually he goes into space to figure out what's going on. You can play it on the Sega Saturn as well as the PS1, but it was just really nice to see what Police Knots was. My first experience into Police Knots was when you were in Metal Gear, talking to Otacon, and then the game gives you a cutscene of what Police Knots is. I always knew the game was in Japan, and I was never able to play it, but since I was able to get a copy a couple years ago, I was able to get a ROM translation, figure out and play that, and it's just a really great game, and it's a beautiful experience to play through. If you love visual novels and trying to figure out what this game really does, it's a great experience, and the music just really kicks ass, man. It's probably some of Konami's best. It's just great to go into, you know, another Kojima game that has a really great visual novel. It's probably what inspired, you know, games like Death Stranding and much in the future, but I highly recommend playing Police Knots through and through. that a monkey I hear? Ooh, ooh, ah, ah, on the GameCube. It's funny, because when I first started seeing the trailers from Monkey Ball Mania, I wanted to go back into seeing what, Monkey Ball is. I've never played the series. The only time I have seen the series was in the kiosks. If you went into McDonald's, you go in, you see the GameCube controllers, and you play a little bit of Monkey Ball. That's my only experience from when I was a kid. But I was able to find a copy. I gave it a go, and man, Super Monkey Ball 2 is amazing. It's just really jam-packed with a ton of games that I haven't really played before. Just the monkey experience of, traversing your monkey from different puzzle levels that are just very intricate in design or, very simple. One thing that I love is whatever difficulty you feel like playing the game is what you can do. And, traversing your monkey through different levels is probably one of the most exhilarating experiences of the entire game. And if that wasn't enough, you also get a cute little story with amazing cutscenes from characters that are probably some of the cutest interactions that I have seen. And, seeing them do their little monkey dance, there's a reason that I kind of memed it in my other Monkey Ball videos. And man, if I thought that wasn't good, the mini games just really slapped. Going from Monkey Soccer, going from different teams, Monkey Target, which allows you to try to get a bullseye in a target and try to make sure that you aim in there. And it was just great, man. I love Monkey Ball, honestly. What's nice is that Monkey Ball Mania really goes into more of that, and I'll talk about that later, because that was a huge highlight for this year too for me. But I did want to dive more into the GameCube, and one game that I always saw on my shelf, and I haven't been able to play, was Pokemon Colosseum. I don't know why, something in me gave me an itch for a Pokemon game, which is not Sword and Shield, so I decided, hey, why don't we play a little bit of Pokemon Colosseum and see what this game is really about. And what's nice is because, aside from Pokemon Stadium at the time, this was truly one of the first 3D Pokemon experiences that allows you to adventure throughout the world and talk to different trainers and Pokemon. And it does have some linearity to a degree, but it does change up the formula by capturing other dark Pokemon and trying to defeat them, as well as trying to defeat them with other trainers and capturing them, which is something that you haven't seen in the other Pokemon games. But I will admit, while it was a nice deviation from what Pokemon solidified itself as, I kind of didn't finish it. I was a little bit bored, and by halfway through the game, I'm just like, you know what, I got my taste, I'm good, I don't know if I want to play anymore. Maybe it's a little bit of the jaded nature in me that just says, hey, you've played enough Pokemon in your lifetime. The new games aren't really, doing it for me. I go back to the classics, but I will admit, I didn't really finish it because I kind of grew a little bit bored of it. Other than that, it is a fun experience to play. The game is more expensive than it needs to be, but I think it's solidified for all the Hoenn Pokemon. It had great music, and it is a GameCube staple. While it isn't my favorite, it was fun to play, and, give it a go. If you told me at the beginning of 2021 that I was actually able to get an RTX 3060 to be able to play PC games, I really wouldn't have believed you. It's so hard to get these graphics cards, and waiting months and months in line, I was able to get one for more or less at MSRP. So I was able to play a lot of pretty great PC games, but the first one I ended up was playing Super Mario 64. Yes, I bought a 3060 to play Super Mario 64. But not just any version of Super Mario 64, there was a PC port that came out, but more importantly, a mod that was called Render 96, which gives Super Mario 64 its original SGI renders back when it came out in 96. And this version specifically has ray tracing built in, meaning that this uses a ton of power on your 3060 or whatever 30 series that you have, and it really revs up the game. And man, I've never played a game of this caliber. It was just really mind-blowing to play. When I grew up as a kid, seeing a lot of the promotional art and renders for this game and how beautiful the lighting was, facing Mario, especially in the Metal Cave, and seeing how that was reflective against himself, man, it was just amazing. It's one thing to really see the render and promotional art, it's another to be able to play that. And to be able to play this mod was amazing. Shout outs to the Render 96 team for constantly updating this game and making Super Mario 64 even better. I didn't think that was possible, but apparently it is.
Here we go!
Every Halloween, I really do like to get a little spooky, play games that I've never played but only have heard of. And one game that's been on my backlist for the longest on PC was Layers of Fear, an FPS horror game which delves into the life of a painter and his devolution into madness and why he's basically falling into madness more or less. And you're seeing just a lot of different horror elements, a lot of different psychological elements that, you know, just absolutely capture you off guard. This is one of those games that I don't really want to talk about too much because it's one of those experiences you really need to play for yourself. But man, it really just held in my mind through the entire year, and it was just an unbelievable experience to play on PC. I do know the game was ported over to PS4 as well as Switch, but it was nice to be able to play this on PC running absolutely fluid. The game looks lovely, and if you just want a game that, you know, that has a really empty ending in a good way that just leaves you completely, you know, disillusioned, this is your game for you. But I don't know why. Some people also like to get into slashers. I don't know if I'm a slasher guy, but I want to get into one. Babysitter Bloodbath, which was an indie game that was released a couple years ago, was one of those that really caught my eye. I was able to get this in a huge bundle. I think it was on Humble Bundle, and I was only able to get it for a couple of bucks. I wanted to give this a shot, see what this game was about, and man, it did not disappoint. What it is, it's a PS1 styled horror slasher, which you're basically trying to run away from an intruder that finds you at home and just trying to kill you. It is modeled after classic tank controls, so if you're not really a fan of that, you might not like this at all. However, what's nice is that there are different control schemes that allow you to play the game and traverse through the level. So that is a nice experience. I do love that what's unique about the game is that you have different video filters. So if you wanted to kind of set this in a VHS setting, a DVD quality, or just completely clean, where you could just really see the game for what it is. It's really nice that this game really tried to aim for aesthetic with a horror slash element to it, and it was pretty cool. And what's nice is that the game doesn't really take that much to play. It only takes a couple of hours, but if you want a pretty straightforward tank controlled slasher that you just want to play for a bit, this is fun. I heard that they just recently released Christmas Massacre. I'm very excited to traverse through that, so I think these are like one of my new favorite indie developers for sure. My girlfriend and I, we love to play games together, and I'm very grateful for that. And since Halloween was at the time, I was telling her, you gotta play this really stupid FMV game called Phantasmagoria. It was a PC game that came out in '93, made by Sierra, putting you in the minds of two characters that have just moved into a new house, as you discover why this house is pretty much haunted, why some of the characters are kind of 180ing their entire personality, and why they're trying to kill other characters. But it was kind of fun to really, you know, do a point and click game of this nature. It is extremely cumbersome because the game doesn't really tell you where you need to go. You need to like really deep dive and completely immerse yourself into it. But if you haven't played the game and you have no idea where to go, I genuinely don't blame you. And I would actually recommend using a guide to play this game just because what it expects you to know and what the result is, you would have never figured out, and I sure as hell didn't figure out even on my second run. I will admit though, the ending is probably one of the worst endings I've ever seen. Just basically saying it blue balls you to know tomorrow, it just suddenly ends and it just says, hey, you know, it's done. Thank you, bye. That's it, just with no consolation. And while I do love the point and click elements and some of even the gore effects that this game gave you, I don't know, it just completely fell flat. I thought it was a pretty high up for me on the PC catalog, but hey, you know what? Sometimes games don't play like that, and that's why I had to go back and see what all the hullabaloo was about.
You like my work?
Oh my god.
A woman's body is a wonderful thing, but the head is useless.
This was one of the biggest surprises I've heard of 2021. I kind of wish I said I grew up with Quake, but unfortunately I really didn't. I did grow up a little bit with Wolfenstein and maybe a little bit of Doom, but man, Quake was one of those I completely missed back in the day. But to see it re-released by Night Dive and how they do their revisions on top of having it on PC, Switch, and every other console, oh my god, that was one of the biggest highlights for me. I genuinely love Night Dive Studio Games and just how much they love their series, and just to see how great this game runs, how fluid it is, and how you can get a high FPS, and it's just a beautiful game. It's classic Quake as much as it comes. While I don't want to really delve into Quake because I know other people can explain it much better than I do, it was really great to experience a classic, you know, re-released. What was nice too, I didn't know there was a multiplayer for this, so they added a patch that allows you to play multiplayer and cross-platform. If you have the Switch, you can play it on PC, you could play against people from PC, Switch, whatever version you have. And I also have this on PC and Switch, man. I was just loving it, and it just feels even better to play this game on an ultra-wide. Man, Night Dive gave me one of the biggest surprises of the year. And then it all came crashing down. I hated Resident Evil 3 Remake with a passion for very simple reasons. I did want to do a video and test out, you know, what my 3060 can really do, and it was really nice to be able to play this game on pretty high settings in 1080p. More or less a similar remake, and it does do expansions of the original Resident Evil. It actually gives you less content than the original by removing the entire clock tower levels, limiting what Nemesis does to you like crazy, to the point where he only does scripted scenes to you and attacks you. It completely undermines everything that made Resident Evil 3 Nemesis a masterpiece. I never thought that they would actually regress from the Tyrant back in Resident Evil 2 and completely undermine him with Nemesis. It makes no sense, but I really felt that the level design really limited to where he could go, so he wasn't really able to be unleashed at his full potential or even greater in comparison to the Tyrant. I will say, once I finished the game, I pretty much completely forgot about it, or that I even played it, and I kind of regret it just because it was just more of the same, if anything more or less than what I thought it would be, and it's just disappointing. Ugh. But then there was an even bigger surprise on Switch and PC. And for you guys who love Undertale and love Deltarune Chapter 1, man, this was just absolutely incredible. As soon as it dropped, I was completely hooked from beginning, middle, and end. Just because the game's level design, the way it's done, the music, the characters, especially the characters, a lot of the characters are just completely captivating, and they just really stick in your head, including one character that we all know and love. But it was just nice because it continues the story of Chris uncovering mysteries that was introduced in Chapter 1. While I don't really want to delve into this game because I would absolutely recommend getting into it blind, I would highly recommend just playing this game as if you knew nothing, other than it's a great RPG where you don't have to fight if you don't want to and be completely passive, and it's very recommended because you find out more about the NPCs, the characters, the enemies, and that's probably some of the best thing that the game does by really introducing characters that were completely unforgettable. And that's all I gotta say about that one. Man, if I didn't tell you this year was the year of the Switch, I don't know what of. The upgrade from the original Switch into an OLED, while I didn't think was a game changer and I wasn't really behind it, really did a lot for me, and it made me love my Switch even more, not only for modding purposes, because I modded my old Switch, but just for all the games that were coming out, the games I was able to catch up, and the games that were coming out at that year. And man, I was really grateful for my girlfriend. She gave me a copy of one of my new favorite series, the Spirit Hunter series, which is a visual novel game traversing through different folklore tales in Japan. The newest entry, NG, just really captivates with that. TLDR, you are cursed by an evil doll that is forcing you to solve folk stories in Japan, and if you don't, you pretty much will die and will take away some of your family members. I don't want to delve into that, but what really makes this game is just how well done the story is when it comes to a visual novel game. And what really captivated me are just some of the graphic scenes of the game, just because it absolutely catches you off guard. If you hate body horror, if you hate trypophobia, if you hate, games that completely ruin your perception of the human anatomy, this game will fuck you up in spades. I actually had to stop just because of just how grotesque and disgusting some elements of the games were. And the stories are just even worse. I would definitely recommend playing the first Spirit Hunter, which is called Deathmark, if you can. But if you're playing NG and you haven't played the original, I think you will be fine in that experience. But man, if you want a game that completely throws you off and just, really creeps you out, NG is really top tier in my list for this year and probably for visual novels. And if you love monkeys, I think you'll love this one, Super Monkey Ball Mania. I didn't think that Monkey Ball 2 would really captivate me, but man, Banana Mania genuinely is the best that Monkey Ball has to offer, period. Combines all of the great elements that Monkey Ball 2 introduced in terms of its story and the way the levels are introduced, but it really does a great job at bringing in the classic mini games and even bringing some new elements like costumes and characters. If you really want to see my full opinion and port analysis, you can check my video up here, so you can check out what's going on with Monkey Ball Banana Mania. Even when I'm going to different people's houses, I'm still giving them Joy-Con so we can play some of the amazing mini games. And basically, if you just wanted an amazing Monkey Ball experience, this was just completely amazing. I love the Monkey Ball games. I would have never thought that Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater would have ever come back, but man, when I was hearing those words on the Nintendo Direct, I was so excited and so happy. I love the Fatal Frame series like crazy, and to have it on the Switch with higher quality models, higher quality lighting, and textures, that was a really great surprise. Not only did I review this, which you can check up right around here, I did play the game from start to finish. It's a great entry into this series. While it might not hit like the other ones, especially Fatal Frame 2, damn, 5 was a great entry that, it really kept me in suspense using your Switch or your Wii Pad, whatever you're playing on it, just to kind of traverse through the level, going left and right. I really thought it was a very integrative experience. I will admit some elements that did kind of bore me, where you had to traverse through the same levels over and over again with different characters. While I do like that there were new things to discover every time you did, it did get a little monotonous in that where you just keep seeing the same area over and over. But other than that, I just think it's a really great series to go back into. I was so happy to play Fatal Frame, man. But we're gonna start getting into heavy hitters. I never expected that Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne would make it on the Switch, But I did hear those rumors that the developers did get it running on the Switch, so as soon as it came out, I had to get it. And while I didn't play the original Nocturne, this was my first experience of playing, Nocturne. It was great. I can absolutely see why people love this series so much. It has a fantastic story that I think is one of the best that SNT has to offer, better than 5. I'll delve into why. It has a good amount of demons that you can fuse, recruit, and talk with. I think I clocked in about 35 hours, and while I haven't finished it, I'm very well into the game and still continuing with it. That was the game I was waiting for all year, SNT 5. I've been waiting for that since it was announced. It just looked amazing. And I'm gonna admit, while this was one of the most desired RPGs of the year, it didn't hit as much as I thought it would. The gameplay elements are completely addicting. It basically takes the elements from SMT 3 as well as 4 in terms of exploiting enemy weaknesses, and it just really goes with it. And that was a great experience. By buffing yourself and going against enemies, it's as classic SMT as it gets. I really love a lot of the fusions and even new demons that were introduced. They were beautifully done and beautifully displayed. I think one of the biggest problems I did have with this game is, one, the frame rate is pretty much atrocious. And while I did forgive it pretty frequently, you'll basically be seeing this game run in the 10s and 15s at some point. And it sucks. It really sucks to see this game just run at such a low fidelity. If this game was running at a full 1080p at 60 FPS, it would probably be an amazing experience. But I digress. Story really didn't catch me off guard as much as I thought it did. There were some pretty cool elements, but the endings was pretty lackluster. I really didn't like a lot of the endings that was introduced in this game. I'm not going to delve into it, but the game just kind of abruptly ends. It gives you a brief epilogue experience, and that's it. For waiting for 4 years, I was just extremely happy with SMT 5. But the bigger experience that I was waiting for was Metroid Dread. I really kid you when I say this. I've been waiting for this game for 15 years when it was announced in Metroid 3. And, kind of having rumors about it was being announced, canceled. It lived into every expectations, and if anything, is probably my favorite Metroid. The speed was completely beefed up. So if you wanted a Metroid game that really sped up fights, this was a monster to play against. I just loved everything about it. The level designs were very intricately woven. I still remember frequently going in from one section of the game to another, and then it leads you to another section of the game. So it really felt, while the game does give you a big amount of exploration, you're kind of limited into a single track, into going from point A to point B to C, back to B and A. And while some people might not like that experience, I definitely liked that it did a strict guide to getting you from different points of the game, and just really looking at a lot of the characters. The backgrounds were probably some of my favorite parts of the game, because you could just be, pausing the game and just looking around the settings and seeing how intricate some of the backgrounds are and how they interact with each other. You can really tell that Nintendo and Mercury's team really went all out to make sure this game looked beautiful, whether you were looking at it or not. And I'll admit, I think this was a very nice conclusion to the Metroid series. It answered a lot of questions that I had about the series. While some elements were pretty abrupt, there were a ton of shocking moments that really caught me off guard, and as a Metroid fan, and I was just completely amazed at just how beautiful the game controls. The story was great. It was just a really, really great combination of amazing gameplay, unbelievable controls, and a fantastic conclusion to the Metroid series. Metroid Dread was everything that I've ever wanted. It was worth the 15 years. It just sucks that I won't be able to play it again like that. And 2021 has come to a close. I'm hoping that 2022 will bring back even better games, better years for us. I loved it. In terms of gaming, I think it was a fantastic year. Didn't play as much as I thought I would, but in terms of what I did play, I was very happy with. And overall, it's just nice to be playing some great games that I was just completely excited about. But what do you guys think? What are some games that you loved in 2021? Were they on this list, or maybe it's something I haven't played before? Let me know in the comments below. And I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. I want to thank these people right here for supporting the channel. And also, if you want to check out more of what I do, you can check them out right here. Thank you guys for making 2021 that much better, even though it was genuinely a hard year for me. You guys helped me pull through, and I'm really grateful for that. Here's to 2022, more videos. Mata ne!